Hi, friends. Welcome back to today's episode. I'm your host, Kristen Hajar, and this is Rise in Mourning, Finding Jesus at the Threshing Floor. You guys have to bear with me today's episode. This is actually the first time I've said what has happened to Alec out loud. Only close friends and family know. I'm sure other people have found out through word of mouth and things like that, but I never really actually like to say what happened to him or talk about that day. So just bear with me, give me some grace today, and we'll get into it. The day our world shattered. If you listened to the first episode, you know that this podcast was born out of a season of refining, one I never asked for and one I definitely never expected. Today I want to share the story, the day that changed everything for us, the day we lost our youngest son, Alec. As I mentioned, this is not an easy episode to record, but I believe that there's healing and honesty. And maybe by sharing what that day looked like for us, you'll find a little piece of your story reflected here too. A reminder that even in unimaginable pain, God is still near. Before I continue, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Leave me comments, feedback. All of that helps me so much. And you can find me on my socials at Rise in Mourning. I want to share this day with you, but go into as little detail as possible because it is such a heavy topic for me. It was just a blur of a day, one that I find very hard to go back to. But that being said, I am going to share as much as I feel comfortable sharing, and we'll go from there. So thank you again for giving me some grace. And here we go. So it was Sunday, June of 2020, and everything felt normal and peaceful except for that the world was shut down because of COVID. My son was almost 2 years old. He was about 21 and a half months to be exact. Everything felt uncertain and heavy. Except that Sunday felt like a breath of fresh air. My sister just had moved back from Texas. It was the first time we're all gathering together again. It was my sister, my niece, my sons, brother-in-law. Everybody was there. The house was filled with laughter, kind of day that felt so normal. So simple that you didn't realize how special and sacred it was until later. I didn't know that that morning would be the last time I would get to hold Alec, to kiss him, to hear his little raspy voice, that we'd go home that night to an empty crib. The moments that followed are blurry. Things moved fast and slow at the same time. And if you've been through something traumatic or even a car accident or something, you know that feeling that it's just, it goes by in a blur. It's fast and it's so slow at the same time. It was like time folded in on itself. There was shouting and crying and chaos and then stillness, nothingness. My oldest son was just 7 years old at the time, and he was the one that found our little one face down in my sister's pool. My baby boy had drowned. Even now, years later, there are no words to describe how that moment, what that day felt like. I remember I froze. I think my sister had to kind of jolt me a little bit. My mind was refusing to believe what I saw, what's going on. And yet somehow I clicked and I just started doing CPR while my sister was on the phone with the paramedics. We had laid Alec's little body down on her living room floor, and I just kept doing CPR until the paramedics came. And when the paramedics arrived, it felt like a movie. It was distant. It was unreal. They took over. They told us to go all into another room, and they were working on him, and then they put him on the stretcher to leave into the ambulance. And my husband and I followed the ambulance. We were like clutching each other's hands. We were quiet. We were crying, and we were just silent. And I think we were just begging God for a miracle at that point. I can still picture the mad drive to the hospital. I can still hear the sounds of the machines, the quiet urgency of the doctors and nurses. And my husband and I were just like holding on to each other, watching all of this happen. We watched them try to bring Alec back. And then those words came, the words that no parent should ever hear. They had done everything that they could, but they told us he was gone. I remember my knees giving out. I couldn't breathe. I just couldn't process that such a beautiful, ordinary June day had ended in such unimaginable loss. We walked out of the hospital without our baby that day. We were there for hours, probably till like almost 11 o'clock at night, and we walked out without our baby that day. We drove back to my sister's house, and I remember pulling up to her driveway, and my oldest son at the time was like peering through her windows, and it just crushed me. And I looked at my husband and I said, how do we tell them this? How do we tell them that your little brother's never coming home, that he's with Jesus now? And so that night we came home to an empty crib, toys still on the floor, and clothes still folded from the morning. That day I really felt that the world ended. And in some ways it did for me for many years. For a long time after that, I, of course, lived in the shadow of guilt. I carried it like a second skin, believing that because I was his mother, I should have protected him. I should have been able to save him somehow, that I should have prevented it, that somehow I failed him. And that was the toughest pill to swallow. That guilt, though, it kept me stuck, angry, broken, and unable to forgive myself. I was just stuck in the darkest place and I just couldn't get out of it for years. And back then, nothing would have made it better. Nothing anyone told me or could have told me would have made sense. I just wanted Alec back. But looking back now, I see something that I couldn't see back then, that even in that dark, devastating moment, God was there. He wasn't fixing, he wasn't explaining, but he was holding. He didn't stop the storm, though I wish he would have, but he sat with me in it. And that's what the threshing floor feels like. The place where everything is stripped away and all that remains is the presence of God. If you've ever lost someone in a tragic way, and you've wrestled with guilt, please hear me when I say, God doesn't hold that against you. He grieves with you, he weeps with you, and he will carry what you cannot. That day that changed everything, that day that I wish I can rewind, that I could change a million things I would do different, was the threshing floor I never saw coming. The place where I was shattered, but where God began his long, quiet work of rebuilding me. Those first 48 hours that followed Alec's passing, the shock, the numbness, the impossible decisions we had to make, and the unexpected ways our community showed up, and how grief reared its ugly head and began to take a hold of me in ways I never imagined. But for now, guys, if you're standing in the middle of your own breaking, I want to remind you, you're not alone. Even here, even now, God is near. And I hope that this podcast and this episode brings you some comfort. I know it was a heavy one, but I wanted to share and be vulnerable so that in sharing my sufferings, we can comfort each other. Thank you for watching today's episode. This is Rise in Mourning, Finding Jesus at the Threshing Floor. I'm Kristen Hajar, and I'll see you next time.